Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir had a choice to make. It was 1972, and Israeli athletes had just been brutally murdered at the Olympic Games in Munich, Germany. Echoes of the Holocaust resounded after the Black September massacre. The Prime Minister responded by unleashing a clandestine operation codenamed Wrath of God to kill the terrorists hiding in multiple countries around the world. When they had finished these targeted assassinations, they then turned their sights on other enemies who had killed Israelis, including those connected to Iran. Boy, how times have changed. Today, as global elites in media, academia, politics, and government bend to terrorist propaganda, Israel is being bludgeoned for defending itself against an enemy that has consistently vowed to destroy it.
Ceasefire is not just an option. It is our only way out of this.
There are millions of people across our country right now who are horrified watching the government support collective punishment of Palestinians.
What they are doing now in an indiscriminate way, killing thousands of innocent men, women, and children in violation of international law is simply not acceptable.
Some of those people that you just saw were Jewish. It's time for Israel, folks, to ignore the world, the pundits, and the protesters. It's time for Israel to eliminate its Iranian-backed enemies with overwhelming force, including the leaders and operatives of Hamas now being harbored far from Gaza. Now is not 1973 and the Yom Kippur War, where President Nixon and Henry Kissinger supported Israel using overwhelming military force to effect a decisive victory and then create the conditions that led to the 1979 peace accords. President Biden began equivocating on his support for Israel. We mentioned it on this show. He equivocated while the words from his Oval Office address were still hanging in the air. The Biden administration has now created a political, military, and diplomatic mess for Israel's leadership that is sacrificing clarity of purpose for dangerous vacillation.
I've consistently pressed for a pause in the fighting for two reasons: to accelerate and expand humanitarian assistance going into Gaza, and two, to facilitate the release of hostages.
Did you ask for a 3-day pause to Netanyahu?
You know, I've been asking for a pause for a lot more than 3 days.
Even cultural Jews should be appalled at the global equivalence that has been made between Hamas terrorists and Israel being given the credibility by this administration and left-wing influencers.
Bring these down.
Because it's false information. And you support IDF, I support Hamas.
And the several other joyful and powerful images which came from the glorious October 7th.
Yes!
Nothing will ever be able to take back this moment of triumph, this moment of resistance, this moment of surprise, this moment of humiliation on behalf of the Zionist entity.
Jewish people have learned throughout their history, going back thousands of years, if they bow to the wider world, they will be butchered. Israel's acquiescence to America's diplomatic and political agendas from multiple administrations from both parties have meant Israelis have lived in a constant state of war with people whose unwavering conviction is the death of the Jewish state and its people. Israel has played the game of hope and change long enough. They hoped working toward a two-state solution and some modicum of peaceful coexistence was possible. They thought providing the Gaza territory to the Palestinians in 2005 would change the trajectory of the relationship. They thought providing essential services like power and water, as well as thousands of work visas for struggling Gazans, would result in a more hopeful future. Israel thought that releasing more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners in 2011 would somehow stop the attacks from the terrorists. However well-intentioned or coerced by externalities those moves were, they were wrong. Since 2006, tens of thousands of rockets and innumerable other attacks have been committed unprovoked by Hamas against Israel. Hezbollah and now Houthi terrorists are part of a global Islamist and leftist crusade against Israel. This week, even communist China joined the side of Hamas by urging even more ceasefires. Jews have been present in what is today Israel long before Islam was established. Basic biblical history dispatches the ridiculous notion that Jews were occupiers in the region. The unprovoked attacks of the terrorists against Israel and basic history clearly demonstrate that despite the propaganda, the only group involved in this fight that has faced genocide is the Jewish people. Now Israel is getting pressure from President Biden and Secretary Blinken to do what any foreign policy analyst could have told you would happen from the outset. Try to extend ceasefires and do more ceasefires as long as possible so the president can get credit for saving American hostages. More than 100 hostages have been released, and that's a good thing. The only American among them had ties to a major Democrat donor, a Hunter Biden art buyer and Biden appointee. The White House is dangling on a hook, baited by Hamas, and the Israelis should go their own way, even if it causes some strain with this administration. Israel should not be forced to sacrifice more of its citizens, its soldiers, and the justice it deserves to exact so Joe Biden can have a good press day.
I told him, we swore and I swore to eliminate Hamas. Nothing will stop us.
Let's hope he's right. This is a war, and the Israelis need to take a page out of their past. It will make not only Israel, but other Arab nations safer. Israel has brought its wrath on Islamic terrorists before, and it needs to do it again, and do it without apology. There should be no safe harbor. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu needs to ignore the world to save Israel, and perhaps the world along with it.